Alright, okay, good evening everybody. Friday night is What If Night once again. We are back to What If Action, your ideas answered. I'm MasakoX, now happily betrothed, and I am now joined by my usual guests, that being the case of Sophie B.
Hello.
And we also have Haverok. Haverok?
Uh-oh.
Hello.
I think...
Oh,
Hello.
no, there we go.
I'm here.
Here
I was
we
muted.
are. Awesome.
I'm
Yeah.
a city boy.
Good, no, it's all right. No worries. But yes, we are here to answer your what ifs, and they also help support the channel. So if you'd like to have your what ifs proposed to us during our time here, then you can leave a super chat, and that will leave us very, very grateful. And who knows, some of the what ifs that may intrigue us, and if I ask Haverok to make a note of it, it might end up being a video. Quite a lot of our recent what ifs have ended up being so. So do get your answers in, and they do help support the channel. And also, don't forget that if you go to masako.cc/store, you can check out the branch merch. And there is going to be a couple of more examples of merch done in the style of Sabaisa, one of Gine and one of Future Ranch, because I did have a few requests of that.
Also, hashtag buff ranch is the best ranch.
Buff Ranch is indeed
Yeah.
Buff Ranch. And don't worry, for any Raditz fans, we do have a shiny Raditz coming, but you have to wait for that one.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's in the production of episode 5. It's looking great. So,
Have a shiny Raditz.
yeah, shiny Raditz. It's absolutely great. But yeah, let's kick off with SeatonTube 2000 asking to answer his question again on the last stream, and that was in regards to what if Kuriza, Frieza's son, was with his father on Namek. And we talked about this in the previous one, and sorry that you couldn't make it, Seaton, but it was more along the lines it wasn't really viable for the fact that Kuriza was a gag character made for Nekomajin Z, which was like a little spin-off comic that Toriyama had made. And as we
he
know,
doesn't. Yeah.
and in the case
he
of
doesn't.
Toriyama, gag manga law does not really apply because Vegeta likes to escape reality like that.
And several of us, myself included, haven't really done any kind of like deep dive into the gag manga spin-offs and stuff like that. Like I haven't even read Dr. Slump because I don't really enjoy gag manga too much. So
Yeah, and admittedly, Dr. Slump is very much, you can tell that Toriyama is in his 20s because there are a lot of poop jokes. It's very, very juvenile, and I'm pretty sure if I really actually sat down and watched it, I would love it. I do like my toilet humor. But yeah, Kuriza was a little parody character, like Lord Onio, which was like the Saiyan character in Nekomajin. That was just a pastiche on like Nappa and Vegeta for some reason. But yeah, those kind of the things.
And one more thing about Kuriza, you know, like I know that he's been used in games and stuff, but these days when we know after current retcons that Frieza is a pretty young boy, Kuriza makes a little sense because he doesn't really have personality, and like to me it would be when you consider everything, it would be weird to have like 3 generations of, you know, the Frost demons around at the same time, you know, like for Frieza to have Kuriza with King Cold still being around.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's quite true. Moving on. Paparazzi. What if paparazzi? It's paparazzi time.
Paparazzi show.
It's the paparazzi show. What if Dragon Ball started as an attempt to make a Maho shoujo before course correcting? So first arc is full on and future arcs have remnants. Now Sophie, Haverok and I, we were talking about this pre-stream, and realistically we all thought that, especially Sophie, that it was more along the lines of that this was done in the 80s, so the whole concept would not have really been that well formed, because the magical girl genre didn't really come in properly until like the 90s. I mean, the type as we know it.
well, and even if you wanted to talk about some of the early installments, Magical Girl actually has its roots in ecchi, pervy OVAs and
Cutie
stuff
Honey.
like that.
You gotta forget
Stuff,
Cutie Honey.
Cutie Honey, Devil Hunter Yoko, all that kind of stuff. And then Sailor Moon kind of made it more acceptable on a broader range of things. But first thing you got to have is you have to have a proper like cast of characters, and you have to have at least one character who can really pull it off. But then more than anything, you need a rogues gallery for that, for your magical girl to fight. And between the number of villains that they kind of have throughout Dragon Ball, and the lack of characters who could really fill the role of the magical girl, barring maybe Bulma, the timeline doesn't quite line up well with the structure of a Mahou Shoujo series. So you would have to create a lot of stuff wholesale for that sort of what if, in which case, you know, you're not so much making a what if as you're making something entirely new.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I unfortunately Dragon Ball doesn't really lend itself to that kind of stuff, but there are plenty of shows that could do in the fullness of time. But Paparazzi is then back again with what if Jocko raised Kakarot? And I did come up with a really cutesy answer, but then Sophie brought up the good point. Wait, Kakarot is a mean little mother as a kid. Why would Jocko go through the bother of it? So yeah, realistically, Sophie would have been correct. No, Jocko.
Moss always tries to defend Jocko, and I
see the best in people. I know, but it's just like Jocko. Okay, realistically, he would have either just turned him in, like got him like imprisoned, or passed him off to somebody else. Like he would not. Now that realistically, yeah, he would have just like tried to delegate it to somebody else, because being a super elite means that one has the power to delegate. Delegation is power. Can you tell I want to voice Jocko eventually in something I really
You want it so badly.
I used this for like I used that voice for a parody for a voice of a Q Ranger. I played Balance in that, and it was so much fun. Basically, getting to do this kind of voice of ay 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 ay, something that would fit in Saban of the '90s. VR Troopers.
A little bit of Alpha 5 sprinkled in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, Diamond Soul, thank you very much for becoming a member of the MasakoX. So basically, if you want to become a member, and you can get yourself some really cool emojis, and hopefully, if it's going to play ball, you can get this emoji. You can get that emoji if you become a member, so you just have to press the join button down below, or leave a super chat. Everything is very greatly appreciated.
It always may be the hashtag Master Rosie.
I was about to say,
this time. You can tell I was typing this with trepidation. I was going like, is it going to work?
So that was that whole preparation before show. Good to know.
Yes.
Master Rosie isn't taking over again.
No, Master Rosie got bored. But anyway, Red Dragon Force 2 says, what if Mrs. MasakoX joined a live stream? Well, yes, indeed. I did get married over the weekend, and it was very, very glorious. It went without a hitch, and I did vlog it, so I will make a video in the fullness of time. But unfortunately, Philly does have a lot of work on our plate. But when we do stream together, and if you go to my Twitch, we do stream Minecraft with some of our friends quite regularly. So you will be able to catch Philly on there, or if you go to twitch.tv/PhillyFauna, that is her Twitch channel. So you can go and like keep an eye out in case she does stream on her own. But thank you very much, Red Dragon. He also asked, what if other members of TFS join the live stream? Well, for starters, they're busy preparing for their own live streams, and also, yeah, they also they've also got better things to do. Realistically, I mean, you'd
have to convince them not to mock what ifs first.
Oh yes, with Grant and Lanny. What if Nappa turned good? Yeah. What if Nappa turned good came out of spite, basically?
Yeah,
jokingly so, but they managed to
jokingly so.
Yeah, Nappa now has his own arbitorium. Check it out, Vegeta. It's my arboretum. Careful. Careful. Stick to the path, Vegeta. Screw it, Nappa. I'm going to walk wherever I want. I did warn you. You awoke the Cybermen. Oh, dear. Okay, Red Dragon asks, a proper question. What if Gohan inherited the quirk one for all when he was a kid? It's more of an April Fool's what if, but it's a cool concept. Now, Sophie made the good point saying that My Hero Academia characters and Dragon Ball characters, the parity between powers is quite big, isn't it?
And I've seen a ton of people I've seen a ton of this in fan fiction as well, where they make Deku like a Saiyan or a Super Saiyan or something like that, or I see some folks try to bring some My Hero Academia concepts over to Dragon Ball. But the thing is yeah, there is definitely a disparity between the power ratios there. If you wanted to give Gohan one for all, mostly I think all it would really do for him is really kind of increase his starting power potential, which was already pretty huge to begin with.
Yeah, it was.
Gohan definitely had a reputation for being the character with the most potential across the entire series for a long time. And so if you really wanted to introduce quirks into the world of Dragon Ball, it probably wouldn't do much in the long run, because the bulk of the power gains would still come down to either being a Saiyan, because that's just the way that Dragon Ball works right now, or just the raw, I am training my butt off for more power.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would say that's pretty fair. But, you know, it's not going to stop people from trying. Paparazzi's back again. What if the GT wish sent Goku's mind back in time to age 794? Well, if it was 794, that'd technically be the future, because GT takes place around 789. So, I think they meant... I
think they meant, something further back, 784 or 764.
Yeah, I think maybe, probably 784.
What was the year...
That was
what was the year that... Yeah, that would have been the end of Z. Because 749.
Okay, so basically the year before Goku met Bulma.
The year before, huh?
The year before. So basically, because that was 750.
We are considering writing it because, we discussed that somebody already asked the same question. So...
Yeah. I think we discussed this on the last one.
Do watch this space. We have made a note of it. And Paparazzi then asks again, a la TFS, what if the Namekian Balls revive Nappa? Well, contrary to what we usually say with wishes on the Dragon Balls regarding Saiyans, Nappa wouldn't asphyxiate in space. He would be on Earth, and in short, Sophie and we were all talking about it, if this was done at the time when everyone was on Namek, Nappa would just go ape on the planet and just continue what he was doing, having his second best day ever.
Yeah, because I mean, he would have had less. It would have been less than a year, so he would have been revived with his body intact. There wouldn't have been any extra bells or whistles. He probably wouldn't have even been paralyzed like he was after Goku's attack.
Would he get a Zenkai?
Oh.
I don't know. I've always considered the jury to be kind of out when it comes to Zenkai during death. I know some people do it, and I do not. For my calculations, I never calculate death for a Zenkai boost.
I would usually say if a Zenkai was I'd say Vegeta had a Zenkai on Namek due to the fact that his body was still there. That was the thing. So basically, you could argue that his body hadn't fully shut down, because it probably would have been between Vegeta dying and then being revived about 10-20 minutes. So technically...
Well, I mean, unless you're trying to really adhere to the canon when it's less than 5 minutes is passing.
I know what you're saying, but I would say that Paparazzi says minutes before everyone returned to Earth. Oh well, in that case, Nappa would just be destroyed. Pretty much.
Yeah, his rampage would start, at which point people would get transported back to Earth, and he'd be like, mistakes were made.
Gohan would have just, they would have sensed Nappa, and they would have just taken him out. Or he would have, basically, it would have...
Or they would force him into submission, or say, go away, leave the planet.
Precisely. So, unfortunately, Paparazzi, your clarification made it less fun. Back in it again with, what if Guru unlocked granted all unique abilities? So basically, instead of just making people more powerful, if it gave people abilities. That is quite a sweeping statement, because you don't know what
really
it could
OP.
mean. it would be ridiculous because Toriyama would just go like, if this was the mind of Toriyama, he would just give convenient tweaks and quirks to everybody. Like for Gohan, if he had the rage boost, he would then say, "You have now control of all of your anger issues," and Dende, he would still have the power to heal. But
well, and I mean, if you're talking unique abilities, there's also just the really obvious low-hanging fruit riding on the wall, which would probably be giving everybody a super mode. Like unlock potential gives everyone the potential to become super whatever, whether it's Super Saiyan, Super Namekian, Superhuman.
Not Super Kami Guru.
Super Space.
I just call you Guru for short.
That one belongs to me. Nobody
Super Space
else
Duck
can claim it except me, Super Kami Guru. Sorry. Yeah, no, sorry about that. All right, let's get on with Podo's thing. What if? Thank you very much, Podo. By the way, what if Babidi appeared during the 10 days before the Cell games to awaken Buu? After all, the combined power levels there are just as viable for his use at the start of the Buu saga. True, it would have taken longer. Like if Goku and Cell were fighting, they get a fair decent bit of power, but not as much. But during this Gohan Cell thing and during that beam struggle, yeah, that actually would be that would generate quite a bit of power. Maybe not enough, but certainly would make it close.
Yeah. Well, and like if you wanted to say they show up earlier, even like let's say like they pick up readings from the planet from like all of the earlier skirmishes, right? All of these huge energy readings going off, and they're like, okay, let's take the spaceship down to Earth, and we're gonna start harvesting this energy that we're reading for the sake of reviving Majin Buu, and let's just assume that like Babidi still has the same 3 henchmen. He's got Pui Pui, he's got Hakon, and he's got or Yakon or whatever his name is, and he's got Deborah. Deborah is supposed to be kind of like on par with Perfect Cell.
Yeah.
So like when you really think about it, it's like, okay, well, Babidi would show up, and Pui Pui would be dust because he's still weak by comparison even to a lot of the characters at this point in the timeline. Yakon would probably be the biggest threat, but if Gohan were to face him, or even Goku would probably just
same thing.
Yeah, the exact same thing, just overload him with energy. So the only real threat would be Deborah, and I think that Deborah would probably wind up fighting Cell, and Cell would be like, oh, this kind of challenge is interesting because this is something I couldn't have ever dreamed of getting the opportunity to do.
No, basically,
exactly.
Life has a meaning to me.
But basically, it's like, what? Somebody dare step up on my Cell games, brother? Well, Perfect Cell has definitely got something to say about that, mother. It's like, Deborah's like, just please stop. Just please stop. Master Bob, may I please kill this fool? Gladly, Deborah.
That would be an unlikely alliance between Cell and Z fighters.
Well, you know what would be funny is that nobody would realize because Shin wouldn't be on the planet, right? So they'd have no warning about like Deborah's special ability. Like Perfect Cell would fight Deborah, and then Deborah would use a spit on him. And so Perfect Cell would turn to stone, and everybody would be like, "Oh, I guess that's one problem solved."
I still think that Cell would have some BS regenerative thing to shrug it off, though.
Oh no, he'd say, "Oh no, I just cut off a finger before you did that," and then he just it's like, "I'm sorry. Wow,
maybe we should write this down and keep.
You should totally build a statue after me in my honor."
We should probably write this down, take note of it, and then keep going because we've been going on about it for a while.
But this is a cool idea.
It is cool. It is cool.
All right, Margaret Evans. What if Yajirobe never showed up? Well, if he never did, Goku would have been in trouble in Dragon Ball because Yajirobe did come to the rescue then. And let's say that he did, and even if he did show up in Dragon Ball, but he didn't show up in Z, then Vegeta probably would have had his way as a mighty ape and probably would have taken out everybody. So yeah, Yajirobe did come in at the right time, even though it shows that he didn't really do much. But what he did do was pretty big. So, just as big as his waistline. Just saying. Margaret Everson also comes again. I'm around that size. I can get away with it. Margaret Evans, whatever question it would take for Whis to raise Goku. So basically, if we we've done this before, and
well, the problem is that I think that this is the same situation. They know that we've answered the questions before and weren't satisfied because every time we found a reason to have Whis like send Goku off and then just check on him. I think they're trying to game the system to be like, no, I want you to talk about Whis raising Goku.
I would basically okay, all right. So if that were the case, that you wanted the technicalities, the best way I would say is that probably Whis would have been extremely bored, Beerus probably was asleep, and he would just want some kind of entertainment. And he would probably
So he adopts him on a lark.
Yeah, he just for a lark, and then when Beerus wakes up, he would then pawn him off to some kind of planet. Yeah, basically.
Or I have a better idea. He would then booped him with his stuff and gave him all the adult informations, and he would instantly grow him up.
Oh, well, basically just make him mature.
Yeah.
Oh, and then tell him, now run along. So basically just make him immediately an adult, and just go like, okay, I had my fun, now run along. I'm pretty sure.
Goodbye, son!
I'm pretty... Oh, they grew up so fast, especially when I do it. It's like... no, I seriously, if Ian Sinclair were around, he would so love that.
Yeah.
By the way, let's get ourselves get up to 100 likes, shall we? We're at 51 right now. Let's get some more. But Red Dragon Force,
give us your thumbs.
Give us the thumbs.
Give us your thumbs.
Thank you. Red Dragon Force. Dark Amulet asks, what if Ranch inherited launch split personality disorder? I really like this idea myself. Well, okay, so in typical R&R, Ranch does have both sides of the personality. It's just more meshed, and it changes throughout, as she grows up. But if this were the case of like she had the split personality disorder, Raditz would have run for the hills. It's like, oh my goodness, I had to have them both. I'm getting it in stereo. But
I think it would have been more interesting, like. Yes. If you had to give her the whole like split personality thing with a sneeze, rather than do it in a situation where you have two personalities like mirroring her mother's, where one's super saccharine and sweet, and then the other one is the super tomboyish, really gruff one who beats everybody up. Instead, since she's the child of Raditz and Launch, instead, make her sneeze, have her shift between personalities based off of either her blended personality from her mother or Raditz.
Oh,
early, super hyper arrogant, like bit of a jerk Raditz.
Oh.
And have her be like that. Like her personality, her sneeze switches her from between like human and Saiyan.
Okay.
In the most extreme.
That could be interesting. So the same kind of thing, but different emotions and different quirks. Okay. Well, if that were the case, then I'm pretty sure that I think that could be interesting. Basically, really kind of splitting the Saiyan and the human dynamic. So, okay, that's cool. So let's make a note of that. That'd be kind of cool.
Yep.
Just as a fun little thing. Margaret Evans is back again. With what if Goku never married? Okay. So let's say, for example, Goku was like, I don't like what this marriage thing is, and I don't want it. And he just goes off, and he goes off to train somewhere. He probably would live at Kame House, because, Master Roshi, still train and stuff. He would flip between there, probably, and the Lookout, because they're the two mentors and stuff like that.
It would be harder for Raditz to get a leverage on him.
Yes, because he would just
he would be a hermit.
Yeah. If he devoted all of his time to training as well, let's assume he lived at Kame House, and so he was always hanging out with Master Roshi and Krillin. Krillin would be stronger from training with Goku. Goku would be stronger from having a training partner, especially one who's near to him ish in power level, because they were a lot closer to equal back in those days.
Yes.
So by the time Raditz showed up, he wouldn't have the leverage of kidnapping Goku's kid, and Krillin and Goku would probably be a bit stronger, probably in the 400s with weighted clothing, maybe even 500s when everything's all done, said and done. So between the three of them, and between the three of them being Goku, Krillin, and Piccolo, Raditz would have probably wound up being defeated. And what would probably wind up happening is either one of the three of them might die, maybe Goku for a similar reason. It would still take Raditz taking like an immense amount of damage in order to really kind of bring. But Gohan is such a key aspect to later arcs of the story that it gets really hard to say where it's going to go after that, because there's the storyline starts to fall apart, because you're like, oh well, Piccolo's still going to be a villain because he doesn't have his little buddy, and then also there's a whole lot of stuff going on in like the Frieza arc and stuff like that, where Gohan was really kind of helpful and necessary.
No, absolutely. Hello.
Yeah, we heard you.
You got cut out.
I was done. I'm sorry. I was done.
No, that's all right. No worries. By the way, it turns out that today is Masako Nozawa's birthday.
Yes.
Happy birthday to
83.
Goku.
So like, it's Masako Nozawa, the patron saint of this channel. She is 83 today. So happy birthday to Masako Nozawa. Absolutely fantastic. Long
and
may
still,
she reign.
Still going strong, yeah.
Seriously,
still going strong.
That voice is absolutely not changed at all, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, N-Star67. I have my own thoughts on how this would happen, but I'd love to see your take on it. What if Goku never landed on Earth, and what happens to the Earth? Well, for starters, if Goku never landed on Earth, it depends on where he would go. So that's quite a loaded question. But let's go back. We'll come back to that. What happens to the Earth? Well, if there's no Goku, then Pilaf would have ended up getting his wish on the Dragon Balls or something like that. But at the same time, if you go to my What If Goku Never Met Bulma video, you can sort of get what might have happened. Like, Bulma would have still gone looking for the Dragon Balls, but she probably would have failed because she would have been easily overpowered. Because she wouldn't have anticipated the likes of Monster Carrot, and all the different types of baddies. In fact, in my one, I had Monster Carrot basically just make her into a carrot and eat her, basically. Oof. So things got pretty dark. Yeah, exactly. The only difference between that is that Raditz wouldn't have been there because Goku would have never landed there. But I think realistically, Pilaf would have ended up taking over the world because
he would have a war with the Ribbon Army.
Yeah, well, yeah. What would have wound up happening is Pilaf would have conquered the world, the Red Ribbon Army would have tried to fight against him, and then they would both wind up losing once King Piccolo came back, because the moment King Piccolo returns to life, he pretty much takes over. And then, even if you wanted to assume, like, let's assume that Raditz thought that Goku was landing on Earth, because that's where the coordinates for his space launch were supposed to send him, but, you know, whatever happened, and he got knocked off course. At that point, it's like that is until Raditz shows up, when Raditz would basically just eliminate everyone else on the planet and sell it for Goku, or sell it for Lord Frieza.
Even if not, Beerus would have blown up the planet.
Yeah, but at the same time, what I think is that the only reason that King Piccolo came back was something to do with Pilaf. That was the thing, because Pilaf brought him back to get something, and
well, see, that could still happen. That could still happen because, like, King Piccolo returned because Pilaf opened the seal, essentially, and but that could still happen because let's say that Pilaf's empire is warring with the Red Ribbon Army, and he's like, I need some kind of trump card, you know. At which point he winds up stumbling upon like the Lookout and all that other kind of stuff.
Okay, well that's definitely fair, but yeah, we're getting a bit bogged down there. But it definitely is a very good debate. That is definitely very true. Craig Kwan. Don't know if this was brought up, but what if the Ginyu Force were a team of galactic heroes fighting against the Frieza Force? As much as...
So what if they were a Super Sentai group?
Yeah, so basically, this is different from what if they turned good, but ultimately they would have been basically destroyed by Frieza. They would have definitely, and Frieza would have just gone. It's a shame. I liked their dance choreography. I had an appreciation for them. It's just a shame they were on the wrong side.
If only they weren't insane.
If only they weren't wrong. Their motives were so wrong, but their dancing was just oh so right. But yeah, not realistically, they would have just been obliterated if they came across the Frieza. But they're working against the Frieza Force. Frieza would have just tolerated them for a while as a little interest, and then said, "Okay, I'm bored now. Boop, dead, pretty much."
Do we have a super chat that we might have skipped over or not reached yet from a Patrick? He's curious. He says he thinks it was a pretty early one.
No, we haven't.
We haven't reached it yet. Okay,
No,
we haven't reached it yet, Patrick. We'll get to it.
Yeah, we're not too far off. Hawkland Davis. What if Turles was good? Then we'd almost have every main evil Saiyan covered. Well, we do have a discussion video coming up in the next week actually about Turles. And in that video, we are going to discuss about why Turles is actually kind of difficult to revive for the most part.
And why he cannot be good, because, like, Turles' whole thing is not being good.
Yeah, his entire character is built around the concept. He was evil Goku before it was cool, you know, as far as, like, the whole Goku Black thing goes.
And I was actually thinking about it when Haverok and I were developing the script. I actually came up with the realization, his story is basically just amalgamation of the Saiyan saga.
Oh yeah, that's the way it works for so many different villains.
Turles is basically a fusion of Raditz and Vegeta. Basically, Raditz having the fascination in Gohan's potential, and then Vegeta's eloquence and kind of frustration. The only difference here is that Turles did succumb to the spirit bomb because hey, this is only a 50-minute movie, so unfortunately.
Well, and Turles is kind of, when you really get down to it, Turles is kind of shallow.
Yeah.
Because his entire plan is, I'm going to be getting power by draining entire planets, at which point it's like, well, what's your greater ambition for that? We don't know. All we know is that he's just acquiring power for the sake of power.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. So
his entire foundation of his character is built around, I'm bad. I go around basically eating planets, of their energy. There are things you can do with the concept of Turles, though, like depending, especially if you want to kind of take some liberties, like loosely, and pull from other fan works. Like I think it's called Dragon Ball Zero, which is about Raditz as a kid, and like it turns out, Raditz and Turles were friends in that, and it's like, I actually, for my next what if that I'm doing, which is what if Raditz escaped Earth with Gohan. I'm actually going to be taking a spin on the concept of Turles as a character, and there will be mention of him there, but he's not going to be appearing in it per se in a way that people might be expecting. Haverok has heard what my idea is for that, but yeah.
Guys, it's worth to wait. And one thing that at the end, to not spoil the discussion video that we are doing, but one thing that I kind of felt that was very Turles specific, even in the movie, is he feels kind of like the smartest of the Saiyan. No, like
feels very
he kind of seems like much like Brains, even smarter than Vegeta. Even more cunning.
Yeah, but by the way,
he has Raditz's cunning and he has Vegeta's ambition.
Yeah,
no, definitely. But here's a plug to Sophie's channel.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Thank you.
What if cheeky plug? All right, top priorities in here. What if Gohan Senior went to train with King Kai? So basically, let's say, for example, if Grandpa Gohan, who seemingly has got to keep his body, got the wish to go to King Kai. I don't think he would have much jokes, as it were. So basically, I think that's definitely something intriguing, but I don't think that it would be something that I don't think Gohan would want to train anymore. Yeah, he's had his time, and I think he just wants to have a quiet life. He's a hermit.
Yeah.
And I think he would just want to find a nice little place in the other world and just live out the rest of his days, really, maybe. Traveling, something like that. Hard to say. But if
I can see them hang out in the other world,
hanging out
Grandpa
in the
Gohan
other world.
hanging out with King Kai, not training with him, but being, a guest
Yeah,
or, know.
yeah, no, true, absolutely. Anime Gaio 1. What if Krillin never went to Roshi? Now, we talked about this a couple of times. Krillin was on his way out of the Shaolin temple that he was with because he was basically being bullied for being short, and nobody liked him. So if Roshi, if it never crossed his mind to go to Master Roshi, I think Haverok had said very well that he would end up just at the Crane School, and Master Shen would have taken him in, and he would have nurtured that resentment that Krillin had, and he'd say, good young boy, use that anger against other people, and he would have ended up becoming an assassin. Do it.
Do it.
Yes, Master, I will do it.
And basically, he could be better an assassin than Tien and Chaozu.
Yes, he would have ended up becoming more superior. Absolutely.
He would have been kind of like a dark mirror to Goku, even more than like Tien sort of was for that sort of arc.
No, definitely. Nick Wolf asked last week, but I wasn't clear. What if in the Raditz End of Z, Goku did Blue Kaio-ken versus Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta instead of trying UI? Feels like Goku let Vegeta win. Okay. Well, I didn't think about Blue Kaio-ken because I still feel like Goku just wanted to try Ultra Instinct one more time. Because this is the thing. Goku has now got a mission in life, as far as I could tell, to try and gain the power of Ultra Instinct once more, because he can't access it, and it's bugging him no end that he just doesn't know how, and he doesn't know how to do it, and he wants to try and get that back again, and he's kind of resigned himself almost, but not really. So I feel like he would try every single time, and I know that the creative directors in the Broly movie were actually poking at us, saying, yeah, Goku's trying to get Ultra Instinct again. But, oh, no, he can't. No, he can't.
I kind of like it. I
like
really
it.
like this plot point.
No, I think it's great. It means that Goku doesn't get his way all the time. It's great.
It gives him craving for something, which is like pretty interesting.
So
it really does kind of stir up his ambition because he's like he's had a taste of his truest power potential, and he's like, nothing else can live up to it. You know, it's like no other fix can meet.
And he can't get it back, and it frustrates him, and it means that he will keep pushing. It's basically just keeping up the same old adage that he's followed. It's great. So that's why I did that. I carried on that trope, and I wanted to kind of keep it that way. So that's my answer, Nick. Patrick now, what if Goku opened a fighting dojo after the 23rd World Tournament and kept practicing in tournaments? He would finally earn money with fighting. Yeah, that last caveat would actually be the clincher. Basically, Goku... If Goku had the mindset to want to do that, okay, he would have to convince Chi-Chi that it was actually worth doing. And it was worth making money, because Chi-Chi at some point did want Goku to get a job. Maybe not when they were earlier, because they had a lot of money from, the Ox King. But when they're older, and the Ox King obviously doesn't have as much money, Goku has to get the job. So basically, if Goku actually uses some initiative, and Chi-Chi lets him do it, I think this could actually lead to something quite interesting, like a new turtle school. Yeah. And I think Krillin would actually end up helping. You know what? Let's actually take a note of this.
Yeah, because we see Goku likes to work with kids, and I think that would be a good work for him.
Yeah, well, and like doing martial arts schooling and stuff like that, and like running as almost like an organizer and tying that into like stuff like the Tenkaichi Budokai would also be a very easy way for him to network with strong guys to fight. So like it would be a win-win situation, because it would give him a job where he can actually do the work required of him with some degree of interest, while also fulfilling his desires, his inner desires to be like, I want to fight strong guys so bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meet hot, strong guys in your neighborhood.
Oh my god.
And then basically say, "Oh, Goku, I think we might need to readjust that ad campaign." But
Not too tall, likes to train, black hair.
Oh.
Doesn't put notes in others' business.
Oh dear. Telemachus. What if Dr. Gero grew an evil Goku clone? Oh, so we had Bio-Goku.
Oh
much.
no.
Oh no. I feel
Goku
like...
too.
Okay, so basically it would be... It's okay. So it's essentially Cell, but it's all Goku. Like Goku's just DNA straight up. I think it would actually be fairly successful, depending on if he did it right. And it probably would take less time. It would probably take less time to do, because if you're just doing a straight up clone, that's like a typical gestation period. But you would also need to add the caveat to make the baby grow quickly, as in like age to an adult, or to make it more functional. So there is that. So I think it would not take 17 years like with Cell. Well, actually, if you think about it, 21 years, because once you have Cell become the larva, it takes 4 years to mature into imperfect Cell. So, yeah, I think it'd be interesting, take less time, but a bit unpredictable, because Dr. Gero would not understand how Goku is, and Goku's temperament would be a little hard to control. So I think it could easily go bad. Yeah, it could
Also, another thing, the body could not be able to compensate for the sudden power boosts, and he could really fall apart.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I don't think it's very much in Jiro's character to make something that would resemble Goku. Like it feels like he wants to destroy all Goku's legacy, basically.
No,
I mean,
definitely.
it could work on some level, like on the ironic level, but
yeah.
question is,
no, I see
could
what
he
you're coming from
control
there.
the clone? And another thing, like, yeah, he could program the techniques into Cell, but Cell had pretty unique biology, and would a simple Saiyan clone be, if you are taking lessons from Bio Broly, in this case, which we have every right to do because it's the closest thing,
definitely.
this could go bad on many levels.
And something tells me that this probably wasn't the first attempt. There'd be multiple attempts, because Gero proves he is not perfect, and he gets things wrong. But yeah, let's keep moving on. Manifesto. What if Turles went to Earth with Vegeta instead of Nappa during the Saiyan saga? Would King Kai push Goku to train harder if that was the case? I feel like Turles... I think there'd be a lot of insecurity between Vegeta and Turles, because the fact that Turles is slightly stronger, like by 1,000. That is the issue, and I feel like Vegeta would take umbrage about that, and like constantly tell Turles not to get ideas above his station and stuff like that. And I think King Kai, the importance of it might be slightly better, but right at that point they don't have the actual materials to actually know exactly the powers of Nappa and Vegeta. All they know is that they are two strong Saiyans. That's all they know.
Also, another important thing is that Turles was a renegade and he left the army, and Vegeta wouldn't trust him. Like, it wouldn't be like they would look at each other's backs.
Oh yeah, no, basically if things fell apart, Turles would be out of there, pretty much. Yeah, he'd only be doing it for his own convenience. So, in terms of like a pet partnership and stuff like that, that's pretty much all it is, really. So, yeah. Telemachus, what if Goku's Spirit Bomb had killed Frieza? Well, okay. First of all, Super Saiyan would never have been discovered at that time. It would have happened, but just not then. Then, of course, Namek wouldn't have been blown up. And it... yeah, I would say pretty much it would be something along those lines. Namek would have been saved. And, yeah. other than that, and okay, yeah, if they all went home, Goku wouldn't have learned instant transmission, and that is the most important bit, as well as not discovering Super Saiyan.
If King Cold somehow learned what happened, like he probably knew that Frieza was on Namek. If he learned what happened, like got to Namek and tortured Namekians, it would be a full-scale invasion on Earth. Not like one spaceship. Full freaking scale invasion on Earth. And King Cold would like tear them apart with the whole army. Not one spaceship, but
oh yeah, no, definitely, absolutely. So basically,
invasion force.
Yeah, but so
not because he would be crying for his little princess, but because that would be a threat.
It's a slight against the Empire, and King Cold wants to prove that he's a superior being. So what better way to do it than to basically just completely scorch the Earth?
Yeah,
and that totally, it would not end bad. It would not end well. Here's hoping that Trunks would actually still come back to the past. Anyway, the Jurassic Show. What if killing was allowed halfway in the TOP? You know what? I actually thought for a second that would actually happen. So basically, I feel like that could easily have happened. I was waiting for that to happen. That basically somebody would have ended up being killed, and then everyone would have looked to a Zeno, and Zeno would have just not cared, and then that would have if that had happened. That would have made the stakes raise dramatically, because
I mean, with 17, I'm pretty sure GP knew he was alive.
Oh yeah. No, basically, if they knew all along that maybe if people are erased, as it were, basically I don't know, he knows the score. People don't, but in the fact as if people were actually dead. And that kind of stuff, like not just erased or moved to a pocket dimension or something like that. If they were actually killed, I would say that would change the dynamic completely and make things incredibly dark. Not gonna lie, and I think that would have made things more dramatic and the stakes even higher. And they're already quite low, so this would have made things a bit more interesting. But at the same time, I don't think you could realistically do that in the time slot that it is. So unfortunately, it's a little bit hampered in that regard. But again, it is something that is very, very worth discussing. It
sounds like Toyota, what Toyotaro would do.
It sounds very edgy. It sounds like something a fan comic would do. So certainly, Chancellor, what if Baby Goku was found by Hercule? So basically, But the thing is, though, is that Hercule is around the same age.
Yeah. Well, let's assume, you can assume something like, let's say Hercule and whoever his family is out in the woods camping or something, right? And before Gohan has an opportunity to stumble upon the pod, they do. And little kid Hercule, or little child, baby, whatever, even if he's a couple years older than Goku at this point, maybe, convinces mom and dad, like, oh hey, let's keep him, and I'll have a little brother. First off, he would need to have his head injury, otherwise he would have been way too crazy for them to handle. And then we would have probably wound up with Goku training at the Satan Dojo for a little while, until he got dissatisfied with it, because his natural strength would still be increasing to points where the whole pretending to have food poisoning or something like that wouldn't go over well with him, and he'd kind of get sick of it. You'd probably wind up with a situation where him and Hercule would have a few fights. He'd go off to try and find a real martial arts school, maybe.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have ever met Bulma, so Bulma would have probably wound up in the same sort of dark situation with Monster Carrot that you did back in the day. It would probably be a dark timeline.
Yes, it would be a pretty dark timeline, definitely. So, again, a lot of these ones could easily turn bad. But, okay. Manifesto. We are now on to what if Hit succeeded knocking out during the Tournament of Power? Okay, so basically, if that had happened, then it probably would have meant that Universe 7 probably would have won much earlier. Because if if we would have had the one Ultra Instinct fight. Basically, we would have had that, and then it would have been anticlimactic. That's for sure, because it would have gone down to Universe 7 versus Universe 3. The rest of the Pride Troopers would have fallen to the wayside. And also down to the fact that, Toppo would have been the big bad. And Toppo being the big bad is not a bad idea. Because that was pretty intense. That big bad boss, oh daddy. Oh, wow. that would have been intimidating.
And think about one thing, like the coolest thing about this transformation of Toppo, which is anime specific for now, let's don't forget about this, is the fact that technically, as Ultra Instinct, everybody can get this.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. It's open to everybody. So that's that.
Yeah.
The Jurassic Show. Yeah. What if the ancient Saiyans landed on Yardrat or Namek instead of Planet Plant? Well, if they did, they probably would have evolved differently. And certainly the Yardratians and the Namekians would have been wiped out, pretty much.
I think let's
ignore episode of Bardock here.
Yep. So to finish up the idea with Namekians, Yardratians not necessarily, like Yardratians are, as we learned, very sneaky and use deception, so they would probably hide underground or use sneaky techniques to hide or something like this.
Mm-hmm.
But and they could survive. But with Namekians, I think with a planet with so little fauna on it, they would Saiyans would they would have a very long war, because Namekians also had some capable warriors, but I think Saiyans would have one.
Yeah.
And Saiyans would end enslaving the Namekians to grow their food, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if they figured out that Namekians don't need food to survive because they're these slug people that live off of water. It would be like, wow, we only have to give them water, and they'd make for the perfect indentured race. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. So that basically.
And the Saiyans would do this. Like the Saiyans are not good people. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They are not good. They are not good. But let's move on. Pizza 15X. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Here's a what-if idea you touched upon in your what-ifs before, but you never gone much further. What if Goku trained Pan instead of Oob? Well, it could have easily happened. And I feel like if he had, Pan would have gotten Super Saiyan absolutely easily. Because, it would have happened. Goku would have just had all of his attention squarely on Pan, because that was the intention. It's just then, Goku decided to back out on it, saying, "Oh, sorry, granddaughter of mine, even though I promised to train you, I just found this random kid. I'm gonna train him." And stuff like that. Especially
at the time of GT, when nobody was certain when Gohan's power started to diminish from lack of use.
Yeah.
So if Pan was conceived at the time when Gohan's power was still at maximum unleashed potential, Ultimate Gohan, then she probably has the absolute most potential of any character in the entire series. So if Goku had actually trained her properly, instead of deciding to devote his attention to somebody completely unrelated for 5 years or however long it was, 5, 8, something like that, without talking to his family in the entirety of the interim, which was just so stupid.
Absolutely.
I think that Pan would have been such a more powerful fighter as to have really made a significant difference over the course of GT.
No, totally.
Don't you think it's super ironic that the one time that they expect Goku to train someone from his family, he just, nope, sorry, changed my mind.
Yeah.
The one time everyone's expecting and hoping for it.
Yeah, that one time when everyone's okay with that.
Yeah, they're basically, bye everyone! Pretty much.
I was just about to say it would be a DBZ Abridged situation all over again, totally. Where he's saying goodbye to Pan instead of goodbye to Gohan.
Totally. Just, ugh. Anyway, the Jurassic Show. What if Goku landed in the Orin Temple? Oh, if he had, they would have had a hard time trying to shave his head.
Yeah, they would have probably attempted to, and then the hair would grow back. So then even like with the waxing and stuff that they do,
Yeah.
I think the big thing is that because he has the monkey tail, he would have probably also been the target of some sort of bullying. But you also have to remember, you really have to kind of finagle this a lot because a huge portion of Goku's characterization post Z became the revelation that he suffered a head injury. And that if he hadn't suffered that head injury, like he probably would have gone on a kind of like crazed rampage on the planet. So even if you wanted to say that he did suffer that head injury just for the sake of the narrative, he would have probably wound up in a situation similar to Krillin, where instead of them initially hitting each other, kind of like how Krillin does when he first shows up at the Turtle School, instead they would kind of be the other one's got a monkey's tail, and they would have bonded over that, I think, over the bullying, and showed them all what's what, you know.
Yeah, no, basically that's the thing. It's totally that. I mean, the whole dynamic with Krillin was just absolutely, that was so interesting how it could have just gone separate ways like that. But let's keep moving on. Rector, here is your thing. What if female Namekians existed? Would King Piccolo still spawn his monsters and Piccolo Jr., or would Guru be able to repopulate Namek? Well, we've actually had this before. Basically, we talked about this idea, and we actually came across this at Saiyakon, where, alternatively, there was in Universe 9, there is a Namek, but the Nameks all identify as female. And honestly, there is no difference, just in terms of appearance and identity. So, really, Namekians reproduce via eggs, so in that regard, nothing would change, really. The only difference is appearance. That's all there is. So, realistically, Rector, pretty much nothing would change. It would be really just in terms of appearance. That's all.
And if you really wanted to say something like, because I see this a lot, with people kind of being like, let's get Piccolo a girlfriend sort of situation. It's kind of an assumption that I think is a little bit kind of demanding Piccolo be a bit out of character, because he's a very solitary individual. He makes all of his gains from like spiritual meditation and stuff like that, far more so than like physical training. He's the one who shows like the most active like growth as far as his potential goes through training by himself, as opposed to other folks who kind of need that extra push. And if he did want a partner of some kind, it doesn't necessarily have to be female, and it doesn't necessarily have to even be some a being that identifies as any kind of gender at all. If you did want to give him a Namekian girlfriend in that sense, even then, that doesn't necessarily mean that the dynamic is going to be the same as any typical Earth relationship, just because of the fact that both of them have the potential to essentially be, egg layers.
Yeah.
The dynamic is very, very much like, it's a very not human dynamic, which I think would be interesting for the narrative, but at the same time, I also don't necessarily think it's what people are kind of hoping for when they ask the question.
Yeah. No, I'd say that's definitely a fair point. Doc Silver Online. What if Goku was never born and Dragon Ball was actually the story of Vegeta trying to overthrow Frieza? So, okay, so basically, if Goku was never born, and it was all about Vegeta, it probably wouldn't be called Dragon Ball. That's for sure. It would basically just be something about Vegeta and...
Monkey Prince.
Monkey Prince. So basically, that is pretty much all there is to it. It would be Monkey Prince. Something like Monkey Prince and the Ice Demon. And the Ice King.
Monkey Prince and the Ice Demons.
The Monkey Prince and the Ice King. Yeah, that could be cool.
The Ice King. Now I'm just thinking of Adventure Time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yes, of course. That's true. I completely forgot about that. Season 2000. What if Raditz turned good? Dragon Ball Heroes Edition, based on the Dark Demon Realm mission manga. Well, then we would have Raditz Super Saiyan 4, because we'd have to sell that card.
Yeah.
We would have.
Oh my gosh.
basically everyone would get a form that they didn't have before to sell a card. Pretty much. Yeah, absolutely like that.
Shiny Raditz card.
Yeah, so absolutely like that. It would be shiny Raditz card. So there we go. And LDLO64. What if the Namekians stayed on Earth? Well, it might be similar to what happens in Konton Village in Xenoverse 2. There would have been a colony set up, or like an area of Earth that was adapted to form like Namekian soil, that kind of stuff. That's at least what I think.
I think there is a colony of Namekians in Dragon Ball Online. I'm not super sure, but I think there is a small colony.
It would make sense. It would make sense to have that on Earth, because you'd want that to have that as a world and an area where you go and explore. So that would make sense.
And to not tell too much, we're gonna have one in one of our what-ifs.
Yeah, and it would certainly be more compelling than the Red Pants Army. That's for sure. Think to Dragon Ball time. Hey, Frostbite.
Oh my god.
What if Z Broly met Super Broly after the movie events? Well, Super Broly would have...
I think Super Broly definitely exceeds the power potential of the original Z Broly, especially if you disregard everything that came after the movies as far as the movie concepts go from those characters. Because if you aren't including all of the pandering merchandise pushing stuff from the video games and stuff where you've got Super Saiyan 3 Broly or Super Saiyan 4 Broly, and instead just go original Broly from Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan versus Broly from Dragon Ball Super Broly. Dragon Ball Super Broly has way more power potential, and he grows so much faster.
Yeah, of course, and literally, because he suddenly becomes 10 feet tall, apparently. And
well, he has that explosive sort of transformation that bulks him up.
Well, now that you could have that in Dragon Ball Fighters, because when Super Broly becomes in there, you can play Broly versus Broly. That'll be fun. Yeah. So you can actually have that. Diamond Soul. What if Goku never got married? We've already had this before, but let's just truncate this. He would have ended up just becoming a hermit. He would have becoming a hermit, and he would have just continued to train by himself. Sometimes chilling out with the guys, but mainly just kind of doing what he was doing before. He would just go back to what he was doing before Bulma came up. But sometimes maybe going and socializing, but not much maybe. Timothy Rome. What if future Gohan went to the past instead? I don't think much would be different, because Gohan would have been having that power. He would have still had the mission. But it would certainly have been very, very difficult to explain the situation and the emotions that Gohan and Goku were talking about each other. Yeah, Gohan may have crumbled. But I think Trunks had the better chance because he had no emotional connection. He heard of these people, but he actually never met them. Whereas Gohan did. So I feel like Gohan probably would have had a much harder time trying to keep it together.
I think Gohan, maybe, but on the other hand, I don't think Gohan would time skip. Gohan would stay with them and train with them at the same. Make sure that the job would be done.
He would have stayed there, definitely. He would have stayed behind to make sure that everything was going okay. Let's see. Next one, George J. What if Hatchiyack reboots in Universe 2, Part 1? And this is actually in 2 parts. Instead of amplifying hate, the Tuffles of Universe 2 are tasked by Hellas to build Hatchiyack as a vault to trap hate and assist Ribrianne and the Fireballs. And the Part 2, Ribrianne's archenemy steals Hatchiyack and mutates him into a warrior powered by hate. Could this work? That just sounds like Hirudegarn. Basically.
It kind of does sound a little bit like Hirudegarn, but Hatchiyack was already kind of a Hirudegarn XP in and of itself
before
already, because because I mean, they came up with the concept, and then they kind of fleshed it out a little bit more when they came out with the movie that featured Hirudegarn and Tapion. I think this what if would be interesting if we knew just a little bit more about those other universes, because it really sounds like something that would kind of heavily impact the universe. It said it was Universe 2, right? That's Hellas's world with Ribrianne in them. And so like the biggest impact would be there first, and then the spillover would have to result in the other universes getting involved, probably Universe 6 or Universe 7 afterwards. So, we just need a little bit more information, but if we were going to go completely just based off of conjecture, I think it would be a little bit interesting because we'd get the opportunity to work with some characters outside of the normal cast.
No, I'd say that's definitely the case.
And keep
Oh, sorry.
And keep in mind that that Ribrian is a hero after all.
Mm-hmm.
And even if he was resentful, like I don't think he would go that far.
No, he wouldn't go that far. No, definitely not. Timothy Wrong. What if Goku went to Namek with the first group? So basically, if Goku decided not to train, well, the trouble would have been with that, he wouldn't have had the gravity training, and they would. The only way they could have made that work is if everyone went with Goku, because Goku would have wanted to have the gravity training, and he would have either insisted in retrofitting it to the Namekian craft, which probably would have been a bit difficult, or they would have had to wait 6 days to wait until they had the big spaceship. So, but let's say if he didn't have that, Goku would have been much weaker, and the Ginyu Force would have just taken them all out. And they would have definitely been reliant on Vegeta the entire time. And Vegeta would have not lived that down, and he probably would have destroyed Goku, because he could. Hawkland Davis asking, what if Turles was good? We need to get all the main evil Saiyans. We have covered this before, Hawkland, but basically we're just saying Turles is the kind of Saiyan who can't really turn good. So,
and even if you wanted to kind of force the issue, even if you wanted to force the issue purely for the sake of like, okay, let's say that it happens somehow, right?
Yeah.
Turles as a character was designed during the early portions of Dragon Ball Z, like film concepts and stuff like that. He is very much, the entirety of his foundation is built upon him being this sort of amalgamation of Goku, Raditz, and Vegeta, and his big shtick is just that he is evil Goku.
Yes.
If you take away the evil aspect of him, he more or less just becomes this other version of Goku with a little bit more arrogance and ambition. And so he's really not that interesting a character. All it would do is really add one more Saiyan to the cast. And do we really want more Saiyans in the cast?
Not really, no. I mean, we've got enough of that we've got. So really, that's just kind of covering that already. But Hero of Light 13. What if Chi-Chi kept training/fighting? Well, if she did, and still married Goku, she probably would have a better understanding about what makes Goku tick, and probably would have had a better compromise in terms of like having like the life school balance and that kind of thing. But in short, she would end up being part of the Dragon team, but also becoming a mother at the same time. But there would be I think it would benefit their relationship quite greatly. So that's the long and the short of it. Paparacha, what if Zeno and the Omni King were swapped? Well, they are the same person.
Paparacha corrects
Buu
themselves.
And Zeno swamp rolls. Okay, all right, that's fair. So basically, if that happened, you still have this childlike mentality, and they're both all chaos and unpredictable. But basically, it's pretty much not much would change because, Goku is able to capture the attention of both of them and appease them, but Buu has the propensity to fight, whereas Zeno doesn't. So if Zeno
there might be, what I wanted to say, there might be, as we mentioned in our video, in the original concept, there might be some hint that Zeno has some more to him than just that childlike thing, and that he's just letting it go because he enjoys it.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, he is a smarter being. With Buu, there isn't much.
There isn't much going for him, admittedly. That is very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Jurassic Show. April Fool's What If? What if Frieza and Frost traded places? Well, I still got the image of bulked up Frieza and Frost just talking with each other. They're ridiculously strong. It's like, oh my god, you're so hench. I know, I'm so hench, but guess what? Never trust anyone. Boop. It's just so funny seeing them talk. It's just like that.
If they swapped places, though, like if the insinuation is like Universe 7 had Frost instead of Frieza, right? It would be a little bit interesting because I think the dynamic of the Namek saga might have changed a bit, because Frost would have arrived on Namek pretending to be a hero, you know. So he would have probably tried to essentially like ingratiate himself with the populace of Namek. He would have been like, for lack of a better term, like whining and dining them. He would be trying to convince them, like, I've heard great tales of your treasures, and I just wanted to come, and I wanted to talk to your people and get to know you all, because I feel like this thing could be used for great good in the universe. And then what would probably wind up happening is he would then be outed by Guru, at which point he would drop the facade. But the big thing about Frost is that Frost is a lot more arrogant than Frieza is, which is kind of one of the reasons why he has to be goaded into turning to 100% power.
Yes.
So he might have actually wound up defeated by the good guys before having that opportunity, just because like he couldn't parse the idea that he would even need to go into his final form.
No, definitely, I would say that's very good.
Also, like from what I've gathered about Frost, he's not a genocide type. He's more of a thief. So...
Yeah, he's just a con artist.
He's cunning. He's like a Raditz. He's the Raditz.
Oh yeah, no, he
the
does.
Frost,
the
Frost demons.
But the thing is, I don't think he would go, for a planetary invasion.
No,
he would just want to get the Dragon Ball.
He just wants to make money, pretty much. That's all he wants to do, and be famous, pretty much. Porticus. What if Dr. Gero, instead of trying to kill Goku, just decided to make humanity super badass cyborgs to show Goku how much better he is than him? If that were the case, then it would take a lot of people, and what would happen with the Cyber Controller episode of Doctor Who? You know, Dr. Gero would just basically designate him as Cyber Controller, and then basically you just have that, and that would actually be pretty dark. And you'd have to use and you couldn't use a wish to change him back. Think about it.
Yeah.
Shenron couldn't do it even with the power of Dende. They're stuck like that.
Yeah.
That would actually be pretty harrowing. Like basically, let's say Goku defeated Dr. Gero. Let's just say what happened in that episode of Doctor Who happened. Basically, all the humans would have gone insane, had no inability chip, they would have exploded. The entire population of the Earth would have been destroyed. How do you feel, Goku?
Yeah.
Thanks, Goku. So basically, that would be a case of Haverok. No, that's like a...
We still need a soundbite for that.
We need to make that work. I need to do that. Manifesto. What if Ultimate Gohan, Good Buu, 18, and 17 fought Broly in the movie alongside Goku and Vegeta? Against wrathful form, but maybe not full power Broly. Well, again, I feel like that something would have happened in that 3-hour screenplay that Toriyama wrote. That was a 3-hour screenplay. So something tells me that a lot got cut out. Well, if you think about it, it was an hour and 40, so there was an hour and 20, like nearly half of the movie got cut out. And whether we'll actually see it or actually find out what was described to us, we'll probably never know.
Oh my gosh. My kingdom for a version of that on Blu-ray that has all of the cut content, but we all know that it was probably cut out during the scripting stages, none of it got animated.
Yeah, no,
but it would be so nice.
It would be very nice.
Even if they just provided a summary.
I feel most of the stuff was realistically in the flashback.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of it was pre the cut to the present. Yeah. No, I feel that is very true. Danger Dave 1994. What if Goku met Launch instead of Bulma in Dragon Ball? And what if Launch had Bulma's role but kept her personality? Well, I think if it had happened, it would be pretty much like similar to what happens in the original. Basically, when Launch goes blonde and basically tries to shoot Goku and realizes she can't hurt him, she would actually end up being quite disarmed and be like, that usually works. and actually would have ended up just tolerating the kid because, yeah, this guy's a bit of a freak show and would have just kind of rolled with it. Yeah, that kind of stuff. But we wouldn't have had anything about the Dragon Balls unless it was Launch that found the Dragon Balls. But how would she get the radar? Because she wouldn't have had the know-how to make the radar. That's the thing.
She would steal it from Bulma.
But why? But how do we know that Bulma would have known about the Dragon Balls? Because basically, if the Dragon Balls weren't in Capture Corps when she discovered them, so Bulma wouldn't have known. So
Yeah.
Basically, we could do that. Bulma was developing the radar, and it requires a lot of juggling. But basically, Launch would have to break into Capsule Corp and steal as Blonde Launch and steal radar and learn about this.
Okay. All right.
She would have to overheard something about this.
Okay. Yeah.
She should have been looking for something entirely different,
Okay.
And ended up with finding a mother loud she never expected exists.
That's fair.
Mhm.
Doc Silver Online. What if instead of creating Cell, Dr. Gero was trying to create his own Bio-Goku or something along those lines, and after collecting data on him, added Vegeta DNA and thus created Vegito instead? Well, we kind of just covered this already, that it would probably have been lots of trials and lots of failures, and then...
Because admittedly, Jiro's genetics work, like his first biomechanical creation as far as utilizing DNA was Cell, and it took a long time for that particular thing. Yeah, 2 decades to come to fruition. So you could tell like he was more versed in robotics than he was in biology.
Yeah, definitely. So,
but I mean,
if he'd have tried, it would have taken a long time. And who's to say that it wouldn't have been discovered like it was?
Granted, Cell is the first one we know of.
Yes.
So true.
So maybe he did try, and maybe the only way that it was stable enough was to combine that DNA in that particular combination. So maybe he did try simply to create a regular Goku, and that failed. And the only way he could do it was to splice it in a way that created Cell. That is a very fair point.
I kind of like the idea of there being a prototype Cell somewhere.
No, definitely. Nick Wolf, what if Goku, Raditz, Vegeta, and Nappa are a band like the Beatles? Which instruments? Would surely give new meaning to the phrase Saiyan invasion. Goku would be on vocals because he has to be the overpowering everything. Nappa and Raditz would probably be on guitar and bass, and Vegeta would be on the drums because that would be the way to actually exert his frustration. He'd be very good at the drums, that's for sure.
I would say Nappa would be on the drums and Vegeta would be a lead guitar because like he's the second protagonist and
he'd do backing vocals. Vocals, and then sometimes he would get his own song, but it would not do that well. It'd be on the B side.
Yeah.
Nick Wolf's back again. Figured out all Saiyans good. After arriving in Otherworld in Part 2, Raditz promises to revive Nappa if he behaves. Kept it secret until future Nappa shows up and cat's out of the bag. Hope honeymoon was lovely. It indeed was, Nick. So basically, this is Nick's theory about making all the Saiyans good. So basically, Raditz promises to revive Nappa if he behaves. I think... Oh, in Part 2, because when Raditz dies, I think. I'm not quite sure what you mean, Nick. Any thoughts, guys?
I'm confused as well.
Say the question again.
Figured out all Saiyans good. After arriving in Otherworld in Part 2, Raditz promises to revive Nappa if he behaves. Keep it secret until future Nappa shows up and cat's out of the bag. Hope honeymoon was lovely. I think this is meant to...
I think he's trying to say that he figured out a way to make the all Saiyans good in a single timeline work out.
Oh, okay.
Basically a situation where you take the concepts that have been posited previously about what if good Raditz combined with Vegeta and stuff.
But would Raditz really have a reason to revive Nappa?
Would anybody?
Yeah, they were both pretty nasty to him.
Bully.
They were pretty nasty to him, so I don't think he would. But no, that's a fair enough assumption. I think that's pretty reasonable, Nick. Alton Worcester. What if Broly went to Earth instead of Goku? Not good for the Earth. That's for sure.
Nope.
Because at the first provocation, Broly would have just destroyed the planet. And yeah, there are fewer chances for that to have happened, especially with Grandpa Gohan being quite the sedate fellow. But I feel like if the same thing happened and Broly ended up squishing Grandpa Gohan, he would have been absolutely distraught and would have destroyed the planet. Or scorched the planet. It wouldn't have ended well. Pretty much that's all there is to it. Smurf, yeah. What if androids 16, 17, and 18 were all Jiro's children? Well, 16 is, according to recent interviews with Toriyama, so that is very true. 17 and 18, that would be probably children from other mothers, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like Jiro would have had a child wanting to have a child. I feel like any child of his would have been an accident. And it would not have
Either
been...
that or a legacy thing. Like, if he hadn't quite figured out, like...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, this wouldn't have been out of, oh, honey, let's have a baby because I want one. You know, to be out of love or anything like that. Or the desire to have children. It's more of a legacy type thing. That's the only reason. So... If they were...
I mean, if we count it, realistically, he could have the twins after...
Oh, yes, of course.
After with another woman after his son died. He could remarry and do something worse, but let's assume remarry due to the fact that it's it's a children's show, so we are not going darker than that, and
yes,
he could have the twins at around the end of DB ?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Perhaps. It'd be a little bit difficult, but I think it could reasonably work. Hero of Light 13. What if Chi-Chi kept training and fighting alongside Goku after marrying him? Still has Gohan and Goten, still a mom, but is a full-fledged member of the Z-Fighters and isn't as strict of the whole scholar thing. Well, we did indeed just talk about that Hero of Light, and but we'll keep that again. In short, Chi-Chi would have had a better understanding with Goku about how fighting works because she would like it herself. There would have been a better work-life balance, that type of thing, and I think their relationship would have been stronger than ever, basically.
Yeah,
more prosperous, more
and it would have also given some further representation for the female fighter types as well, because
exactly.
we don't see a lot of them getting to actually stay in the game, and even like in Super, all of the ones that got introduced that are like, yeah, they're absolutely still fighters is like 18, and even then she's still like a mother first, and then a pair of Saiyans, and it's like more Saiyans, yippee. And I mean, I don't mind Kale and Caulifla. I think that they're all right for what they are, but also it's like, we already had female characters that could have worked out for that, especially Videl.
Kamikaze Fireballs as well.
Yep, that is very true. That is very true.
And I'm one of 3 people who actually doesn't mind them, and I kind of like them.
I don't mind them either, to be honest. I mean, yeah, I like.
I don't get the. I really don't get the hate.
Nah, I like it. It's cute. Season 2 2000. What if Goku was born the legendary Super Saiyan, as if Broly was never born? Well, technically, Goku is the legendary Super Saiyan, or is he? There are 4 candidates. My personal being that Pan is a legendary Super Saiyan, but I don't think that is the case. But basically, if he did, I think it would have been much more erratic. And the fact, if Grandpa Gohan was able to temper that power, then all the power to him, to be honest. Again, as we said, if Broly went to the planet, it would have ended badly if something big happened and it caused emotional turmoil for Goku. It would have not ended well, let's just say that. But Nick Wolf, plus future Nappa would give Jeets the I forgive you speech. Okay, that's in keeping with the All Saiyans good thing. So basically... yeah, I feel like Nappa would end up realistically forgiving Vegeta after some time. Not like the whole thing in GT where Nappa doesn't speak and just goes stuff like that. That was dumb, pretty much. That was just there for fan service, definitely.
He was singing Go West.
Okay, that's fair. Dragon Cypher X. What if Goku got sent and stuck in the past to planet Vegeta just before it was destroyed? It depends on how old he is. If he has instant transmission, he would have instant transmission out of there with as many people as possible. But if he got stuck, yeah. If he was strong enough, he would have been able to try and destroy Frieza. But again, there's a lot of variables here. So it really does depend on what time, how old, etc. But it would be a bit of a challenge if he didn't have instant transmission. If he did, he'd have just teleported away, up into Frieza's ship, blown it up. Pretty much there is to it. Champion of Unity, Antarctica. What if Beerus saw Super Saiyan 4 instead of God? I think he would not have been as interested, because this is just conventional ki. This is not God ki, because that's the thing that got Beerus interested. The fact that a mortal could become a god, as it were, and have access to god powers. That's what... Basically, if Beerus had a dream about Super Saiyan 4, he'd have just been, oh, would you look at that? That's kind of interesting. Wait, let's go to Earth and destroy that thing because it annoys me. And he'd have done that for closure, not out of interest. And nowhere near as endeared, that's for sure. So, I think that's definitely the case. Tony, what if Piccolo lived Super Saiyan and fused with all Namekian warriors? So basically, I think what they mean is what if Piccolo decided to fuse with all the Namekian warriors? Now, okay, that's a good signifier, because we've had before Piccolo fusing with every Namekian, and it would vary depending on Dragon Clan, Warrior Clan, etc. But if Piccolo basically fused with all the Namekian warriors, you'd have somebody pretty powerful. Like, really scarily powerful. Because the multipliers would have been good, maximum efficiency, and a lot of experience.
And if he started with Nail, there's the whole fact that, like, if the theory that you posited before was correct about Nail having unlocked potential from Guru, further unlocking extra potential with every fusion, essentially, the amplitude of growth in power would be, like, significant. I think that Piccolo would have probably been the strongest character in the entirety of the series for a long time before people caught up.
In short, he'd be 50 guys now. Pretty much. Joe Kage, what if Oob beat Baby? Oh, so basically if Marjube actually did something, honestly, I don't
he would have a point of existing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so basically, I don't think he would have ever beaten Baby, but I think he would have definitely been at least a time for actually would have had a compelling fight and been able to at least be in with the assist. So I think he would have and that would have been really, really good if he actually he wouldn't have to beat Baby, but he would at least have to he'd be in there with the assist, allowing Goku the time to be able to finish it off. And then Goku would have been like, I'm proud of you, Oob. You've done really well. You've come on so far. Having that moment and dynamic together would have been so cool, because it would have actually had a point. It would have had an end point for Goku trusting Oob back in the end of Z. That would have actually been really compelling. But unfortunately, we didn't get that. And speaking of, Pizza15 talks about more about GT. What if the Dragon Ball's fan-base hatred for GT was reduced by 95%? Oh, that's easy. Get rid of the Super 17 arc, actually go somewhere with the Evil Dragon saga, and you know, actually
don't turn Goku into kid and change those characters, like make it a Goten Trunks fun story.
Yeah, that's all you have to do.
Yeah,
and less said about that, the better. That's all you have to do. Auto Johnny, here's two what ifs. What if Gohan never stopped training, and what if Gohan became the main character after Cell? Well, what if Gohan became the main character? That's what they were trying to do. That's what they were trying to do in the Buu saga. That's why Gohan is the focus in We Got a Power. That's the point. He was. I
feel like that because one of the things that Toriyama said before was that he had a lot of difficulty with the way that he wrote with the way that he wrote Gohan's character. He had a lot of difficulty making him the main character in the Buu saga. Like he intended to, but like he just found it he couldn't write him that way. And I think it's partly because of the fact that Dragon Ball Z was one of those where it kept on being like they have to get on to fighting, they have to get on to the threat to the world, etc. I feel like if he'd have done a bit of a shift and made it to where, like, because if you look at Gohan, right, Gohan is very similar in a lot of ways to characters kind of like Deku in My Hero Academia nowadays. You know, if they had made it an actual full blown like Gohan in high school story arc and revolved it entirely around that, I think that Gohan would have made for a better main character. But the problem is that I don't think that would have appealed to the audience for Dragon Ball Z at the time.
No.
And if he was going to be like, okay, well, he never stopped training and all that sort of jazz, right? By the time the Buu saga rolls around, if he had been going to Kami's Lookout, say, or going to the Gravity Chamber and like training with Vegeta or something, or even if he just done a lot of like spiritual training with Piccolo, I think he would have been so significantly powerful that the Buu saga would have never really gotten a proper kickstart, because I don't think Spopovich and Yamu would have even been able to get the drop on him, first of all. And I think that would have probably wound up happening is like all of the main bad guy forces that Babidi had under his control, like Pui Pui, Yakan, and Deborah, would have been more or less wiped out like right away, because they wouldn't have even been a challenge.
No, absolutely. So I think a lot of things would have happened much quickly and a bit more succinctly. So yeah, no, that's a very good point, Sophie. Nick's back in with what if Count Nosferatu, which is me, hosted a Halloween round table? Well, unfortunately, I don't think we have time in the month to be able to do that, unless we want to do it on the 1st of November. But, you know, we could theme it, maybe, with some, we'll see. We'll definitely see, Nick.
I won't be there on the 1st of November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a shame. But, hey, if we then move it to Thursday, then we could.
Yeah.
Then we could.
Yeah, we could.
Ooh.
The spooky
round table. There's just more
It's just a regular round table, but we tell everything in spooky voices.
Yeah, and more candy and stuff.
But we're most definitely wearing costumes, even if you can't see us on camera. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Okay, Joss Street. What if Goku married Tights instead of Chi-Chi? Okay. What would have been the
First he'd have to meet her.
Yeah, first he would have to meet her, definitely. And I feel like, you know...
Tights is much older, and like it would be yeah.
I was gonna say Tights is older, and as we've seen, because you know Toriyama is making Goku into a real jerk in Super, because like that's the true characterization of the character. Like Goku really is pretty blunt with his comments to women, and Bulma especially. I think the same thing would probably be said to Tights. I don't think that at the time of Dragon Ball, when like all of the stuff about like Goku's love interests gets sort of introduced, I don't think he would have been into Tights, because she would have been an adult and he would have been a child. And even if you wanted to say like, oh well, post time skip, well, you have to have some kind of development there, and Tights was off doing her own thing. She didn't even adventure with the rest of the crew. Most people didn't even know she existed until like fairly recently. And even then, it's like Goku has a better relationship with characters like Chi-Chi or Suno. So it's more plausible that he would marry anyone else that he interacted with over the course of Dragon Ball than Tights.
But I appreciate it's like excuse me, that's a new one, you know.
It is a new one. Definitely a new one.
That is definitely a new one. Absolutely. But let's move on. Brandon Little, perhaps the stupidest one yet. Probably not. When One Infinity comes by, what if traveling between the what-ifs is possible by punching holes in reality, Gogeta Broly style? Well, technically, you've already done that in the GT Raditz edition by basically having a galactic rail line between universes.
Yeah.
So it's actually...
And I mean, like, they showed that reality can get warped by the raw power of characters like Dragon Ball Super Broly and Super Blue Gogeta.
It's definitely proven that it is plausible. And also, Brendan says, here's $5 to say that Sophie's Oolong and Roshi impressions are amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oolong thanks you. As does Master Roshi.
Oh, and Zero plays games now. Sorry about last week. Hope you had a lovely wedding. I definitely did. It was absolutely flawless. This is the question that I was asking. What if Vegeta was like Goku, as in, what if Gohan raised him? It would depend. For the most part, if he didn't have a bump on the head, Vegeta probably would have tolerated Gohan up to a point if he provided food, but up to a point. Once Gohan had proved that he was not useful, he would have been destroyed, or Vegeta would have just gone, like just abandoned him. Maybe he'd say, "You'd be the last to die," and something like that as a kid, or something like that.
Or if we assume that Vegeta was more vulnerable as a kid, which he was, maybe, maybe after all, Grandpa Gohan could go into that, in him missing that father figure, because we have clues that he did.
Yeah, that is a fair point. That is a fair point. Dreadrogue. What if Bardock kept his promise from Super Broly and went to Earth assuming he gets sent back in time and then finds a way back? So basically, so if he's like thinking he can actually play time and basically send Cronoa for a loop, I think that's what they're trying to say.
Is this from Dragon Ball Super Broly? Because
Yes.
I don't remember him making
Yeah,
a
so
promise.
Because he did in Broly, yes.
Okay,
say that
because I know that he says
once he
he'll go and pick him up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If it's nothing, I'm go pick him up, but not we go to return. If we are safe. So
that's the signifier. But basically, Bardock would have to do a lot of finagling and trying to get away and escaping and using time and actually understanding it to be able to do it. I don't think that would realistically work.
And the point is, like, he didn't, like, he did that more for Guinness sake, I feel, and his
also they
legacy's
probably
sake.
thought it was nothing. Like, it was so casual. They had no idea that it was actually true.
Yeah. And I mean, you'd have to really kind of finagle the timeline a little bit to have Bardock get off the planet to go and get Goku, at which point, like, if the question here is about like time traveling to prevent the planet's destruction or something like that, which is my assumption, like, I don't even know how Bardock would begin to do it, because like it's not like he has future sight in Dragon Ball Super Broly. It's just that he has common sense enough and good enough danger sense to kind of see what Frieza's plan is when all the pieces fall together.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, it's just like he has a better gut feeling, as it were. So definitely that's the case. Anime Guy 01. What if Bulma and Yamcha had a kid around the same time Gohan was born? I feel like if they did, well, I feel like Bulma would have been like really quite young. I don't think she would want to have a kid that young. Like, not at the age of like 19 or something like that.
It would probably have been in a situation where it was an unexpected pregnancy and she decided to keep it. More than anything else, I think for the story, it would have kind of solidified Yamcha and Bulma's relationship, because they would have finally gotten over their more.
Yamcha would have stood up to becoming a dad.
Yeah, and I think that it would have probably helped them to get over their more petty differences, because there's kind of this implication throughout the whole series that they wound up breaking up a couple of different times, more or less for petty. And then over the course of their most recent breakup, essentially in Z, Bulma winds up getting attracted to Vegeta, and then of course that whole ball gets rolling. I think that if because like Yamcha wanted to start a family anyways. So if Bulma and Yamcha wound up in that position, I think that they would be I think they'd be pretty good parents. Yeah, it would more than anything else, I think it would just mean a different future for characters like Vegeta, who wouldn't marry Bulma and thus wouldn't have that kind of balancing factor in his life.
Yeah, no, that is very true. Kenshin 491. What if Gohan gained Ultra Instinct? Well, And technically, it would have been fairly accurate because Ultra Instinct is able to be accessed by anybody if they have the aptitude. So I feel like if Gohan actually had God Ki training, he would have gotten it because he would have applied himself even more.
That's the thing. Like, we don't even know if Ultra Instinct requires God Ki.
That's the thing. We don't know. That's the thing. If Gohan has the aptitude and it's an evolution of Ultimate, because Ultimate Gohan may have been actually a permutation of God Ki before God Ki was a thing. That's the thing. We don't know. It could be conjecture. It could be like a precursor or something like that, or like a Kai's emotional thing of that. But a couple of people like saying Gohan's probably too emotional for Ultra Instinct. Like, probably gets a little too, like, inconsistent in that regard. So, yeah, maybe. But I feel like if Gohan had his eyes on the prize, he would get it. I would say. Magic 1988. If you could make a power-up for the show and could choose who gets it as the only person to get it, what would it be? And Sophie can use Kaio-Shin if she wants.
Say the question again. I was having a little bit of difficulty on my end.
If you could make a power-up for the show and could choose who gets it, what would it be? And they'd be the only person. And they said that you can use Kaio-Shin if you want.
Kaio-Henshin would definitely be probably my first option because it's the most probable I could see from just a pure logistical perspective that humans could make some kind of gains on the Super Saiyan transformations. I figure that Kaio-Henshin itself would probably, and this is probably going to be applied to my what ifs later on, so you're getting a little bit of a sneak peek for future instances, but it probably has an upper limit of 100. Meaning that like Kaio-Henshin basically can't really go beyond a Super Saiyan 2 modifier, but I think that would at least keep the human characters more or less in the game enough to be viable. And it's a technique that I came up with by combining two techniques that were already present in the show. And that kind of makes sense in that regard. So if I could make that canon, I probably would, especially since I would prefer it to be that sort of logistical, let's create a new technique through our martial arts training and our genius concepts, rather than simply like, oh, I happen to have the genetics in my body to unlock a transformation that grants me all this power, like with the Saiyans,
Yeah.
And then they, of course, like, they might have the potential later on, because Beerus makes a point of saying it, that like everybody in the universe has the potential to acquire Ultra Instinct, but only Goku is the person that people have like actively seen achieve it in however many, millions upon millions of years.
Yeah.
So if somebody other than Goku could do something like that, that would be interesting as well.
Yeah,
I would use Ultra Instinct, and I would give him to either Krillin or Yamcha, and make them discover it, like in a moment of peril when the hope is lost, and they suddenly, with their current, level of power, them currently going all in and
No, actually,
it would be interesting
and
if
being
you
an absolute badass. Like, it would be very Toriyami with suddenly, character that was a that characters that were bads of a joke for so long, suddenly, went totally badass and like defeated the bad guy.
Actually,
you could even say that Krillin unlocked it because he's experienced life and death so many times.
Yeah, well, actually, I was gonna say Ultra Instinct as well, so I'm just gonna go with Haverok's answer pretty much. Doc Silver Online. What if Earth's Dragon Balls had absolutely no limitations to what can be wished? Well, then the stakes would have just been absolutely zero, pretty much.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Oh my god, no stakes.
That's the thing. You need to have certain things. You need to have limitations. You need to have restrictions. Because I was actually writing the What If Bulma Train Like Goku script for next Saturday, and there were so many points that I could make this easy for Bulma, but I'm not going to. As in, like, hey, here's a bit where Bulma's actually fighting against Raditz. Oh, she could basically whoop his ass with her surges. Okay, here's a Toriyama thing. Oh, dang, She's next to...
the good guys beat it. This thing happens, the good guys beat it. Like back in the day, I used to see so many different like fanfics and stuff across all different kinds of series, especially like Naruto and Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that, where people just get everything handed to them. Where it's like, oh, let's just go into the room of spirit and time, and we'll unlock Super Saiyan 3, 4, 5, whatever, or the humans will get something like hyperhuman mode and stuff like that. And it's like, well, you kind of have to give an explanation, and you're just kind of making the story a little bit boring by giving the good guys too much.
Yeah. Anyway,
so you have to find that balance.
Yeah. Okay. We need to kind of keep. We need to get things moving. The shindig. What if What if Chi-Chi went to Namek and was killed instead of Krillin? Not much would have changed. Goku would have ended up going Super Saiyan, because out of rage in that regard. So
he might not give Frieza a second chance, though.
Oh no, he wouldn't give Frieza a second chance, that's for sure. He would have been toast instantly. So absolutely that. So pretty much that's the short of it, really. George J, what if Salza and Android 13 fused? You'd have had a completely French Canadian accented taciturn android with a fantastic haircut and stuff like that.
And
I'm trying to imagine what the accent of French plus Southern would be like, and I guess he would become Cajun, and he would be more like he would be more like Gambit, essentially.
No, Nick Wolf actually came up with a super chat and said exactly that: a Cajun space robot.
Yeah.
So pretty much we had that. And okay.
I'm gonna get you, mon ami.
Alton Worcester, what if Broly went to Earth instead of Goku? We have covered that just recently, but basically, the moment Broly basically stubbed his toe and had a tantrum, boom, bye-bye planet Earth, pretty much. So there's that. The Comic Platypus. Oh hey, it's been a while since we've heard from you, dude. What if Saiyans had a limit number of Zenkai boosts? Well, they'd actually be balanced. But the trouble is, though... it varies from Saiyan to Saiyan. Depends. Let's say, maybe if Goku only had less than Vegeta. So basically, Goku hit a wall, and then Vegeta carried on.
Well, and what if they have a limited number? Does that mean that their Zenkai boosts are something that they can themselves trigger? Like if they're in that near-death state, their subconscious tells themselves okay, do I want to trigger one of my Zenkai boosts at this point, or do I think I could make better use of it somewhere else later down the line?
Or maybe it's something that's completely pot luck. As in, you don't know.
Yeah, it could be complete luck.
You don't know. That's the thing. You don't know.
I like the idea of the luck better, honestly.
Yeah, it's pot luck. So basically, you don't know. So yeah, Goku has this talent and aptitude, but he has less Zenkai boosts. So that's the thing. You can have great talent, but you may not get the Zenkai. So basically, there may be a point when Goku recovers, and he doesn't feel any stronger. And that's it. He's reached his limit. And that could actually throw a lot of things into the mix. But yeah, let's check that. Charles Smithson. What if Piccolo learned the kaio-ken? If he did...
We've answered this one before in a previous one.
Yes, we have. But basically, if he did, he would probably be very good at it. Because he'd basically be able to push his limits. Because, if his body exploded, he would just regenerate. He could probably concentrate all of the energy that's about to explode into one limb and then just, regenerate. And he would go okay, bit too much. Let's dial it back. So, but he would probably...
Yeah, I think it would be a situation where, he would find an upper limit, of course. There's always an upper limit to where, the regeneration would probably not be as effective.
Yeah.
But I think that he would be able to endure more levels of kaio-ken than probably your typical human or even Saiyan would.
Probably.
Because remember,
but that's if he's able to learn it.
These days, when we look at self-regeneration, you need to have something more than regeneration, because regeneration is from Piccolo. But I think the ability of surviving and durability comes from Frieza and Cold.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Alright, Zero plays games. What if the Namekians never left Earth? Well, we actually have covered this. But basically, if they never left Earth, they would probably have ended up forming their own little colony, like they do in Dragon Ball Online. They'd have just adapted a bit of Earth to their own needs, and they would have just happily lived. pretty much. Just adapting to the foliage and the fauna and the flora of Earth. Just
Maybe one of the warriors would have joined the fighters.
Yeah, maybe. Probably that the strongest would have ended up becoming a disciple of Piccolo or something.
Yeah.
Herbert Covington. Howdy. Congrats again on the marriage, Mars. Well, thank you. What if sparking joy and divine mind were canon in the R&R universe? Could it fit in the main R&R timeline? I feel like I would not do that for the main R&R thing because I want to keep that as realistic as possible within reason. But if we ever do a Zidane special, I would put it in. I would include them, as in, or at least one of them. If we did R&R in air quotes movies, I would then include it to make it actually add something a bit more different.
We had hours of conversation about that.
We did, seriously, at Saiyacon.
You have no idea.
Seriously, we were discussing this a lot during Saiyacon. So, so watch this space. Frida Adora Decker. What if Saiyan became a god of destruction? Could they become Super Saiyan gods of destruction? Well, technically, Super Saiyan Blue is a Super Saiyan god Super Saiyan. So that's already happened. And Whis wants Vegeta to become a Super Saiyan, to become a god of destruction really badly. But I feel like if... Again, this is something that Haverok and I were talking about a lot at Saiyacon. As in, what happens when you become a god of destruction? Do you sacrifice your memories? I suppose you have to. Because you have to be trained to not use your emotions. So basically, the only way that Whis could get what he wants is to knowingly deceive Vegeta and make him lose his memories. That's the only way he could do it without telling
your attachments, all your
everything about you.
I mean, we now know that it all to lose part of your memories because we now know, which is really interesting, that Belmont was the god of destruction. He was a pride trooper.
Yes,
and he has some memories of that. So it would have to be a very selective memory wipe. You remember?
Is that from the anime or is that a spoiler from the manga? Okay.
It's from the manga. It's like the extended material essentially.
Yes.
Like Toyotaro posts those little lore tidbits.
Yes.
So Belmont was. So Gichin, Jiren's master, was the founder of the Pride Troopers, and basically Belmont was his friend and he was his second in command.
Oh, that lends credence to the fact that maybe Belmont killed Gichin, and basically, is that hidden demon.
I don't think he did it.
I personally think he did. I personally think he did.
Yeah. I feel like he basically there's that iteration of of Belmont living, and I feel like this just gives an idea on how long Pride Troopers exist. We're
getting a little off track, guys.
Let's carry on.
Sorry.
That's okay.
How'd Future Cell know Trunks had a time machine? Probably because
he saw.
He saw it pretty much.
Yeah.
He saw it happen. He used that opportunity. And that's what happened with our future Trunks. He saw it and wanted to seize the opportunity. That was the point.
Yeah.
He was opportunistic and used this as a means to do what he needed to do. So that's the answer. Seton 2. What if androids 13, 14, and 15 were brought back in Super and turned good? Well...
You'd have to make them canon first, and that's a little bit rough.
And the fact is they're already dead, or, the lab's been destroyed. So even if their pods were in there, they would have been blown up.
I mean, technically they are canon because there had to be androids between 8 and 16.
But the trouble is, though, if they weren't activated, and then Krillin and Trunks blew up the lab and the sub-lab, they're pretty much toast.
Yes.
So they were destroyed before they even had the chance.
Yeah.
Even if you brought them back, you have to give them something to do. And 2 of them are kind of like failed androids. So, if at best you'd have a situation where maybe like a couple of them they go and they get like repairs done at Capsule Corp and then they would go and they'd live their own lives.
Yes.
They would be really powerful, but it doesn't necessarily mean they join the Z Fighters or become friends. Like honestly, 16 or 15, 15 would probably have just like become a trucker, and then 13 and 14 would have gone off and done their own thing.
you mean 14 and 15 would have gone and done their thing, and 13 would have become a trucker?
Or 13, I'm sorry, I get them mixed up.
No, that's all right. Kenshin 491. What if Frieza's hell was being a Saiyan? Oh, becoming everything he ever hated.
Yeah.
That would have been a hell. But to be honest,
That would have definitely been a hell.
I prefer the hell that he got, because that was just so funny. And
DB Super's hell was really silly, which is very Toriyama.
You needed to make it silly. Like, just to the fact is that it's Frieza, and he lives in a world with teddy bears and pixies in flower beds. It's hilarious. The first time I saw that in Resurrection F, I think everybody cracked up in the theater. Because it's just like this being trapped in this personal hell.
And he cannot move. Like, this is the worst thing that everyone will go, like, everyone would go insane without being able to move, essentially.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I felt like it was a fantastic thing.
So what if you gave him the same hell, but you put a mirror next to him? And whenever he looks at the mirror, he sees Goku.
That would be... Oh, no. This is a reflection of everything
we are sidetracking again, but like...
Yes,
okay,
oh my god.
But Ben Mills, thank you very much for your super chat without a thing. Zero plays games. Correction to my first question. What if Vegeta was Goku? Was sent to Earth as a baby and raised by Gohan instead of Kakarot.
That's pretty much Dragon Ball Sai. There is a fan... If you've never heard of it, there's a fan comic from a long time ago called Dragon Ball Sai, and it's basically what if Vegeta was sent to Earth, raised by Gohan, etc., etc. They're basically position swapped.
Yeah.
And it is very interesting. It's got some really good artwork. Vegeta is a bit older than Goku, so he's much more interested in Bulma than Chi-Chi. But if you really want to see what that question pertains, check out Dragon Ball Sai, because I don't think many people are able to really do it much better than that.
I would say so. The comic Platypus. What if Dr. Gero and Dr. Briefs were the same person? Ooh.
It depends on how you do it. Like, is it an alter ego, sort of a Jekyll and Hyde situation, or is it more like a Dr. Gero is an alternate identity that he takes on? Like, is it a subconscious, like, against his will thing where he's got literal split personalities, or is it a situation where, like, he pretends to be a good guy like Dr. Briefs, and then in his downtime he's actually the villainous Dr. Gero?
I would go with the way that it appears it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but I will go what Marvel Comics did with the Lizard in early 2000s, where the Lizard was Dr. Kurt Connors, but of course we thought for years that he had no control, but in reality there was that huge reveal that Lizard was, of course it got retconned later on, but Lizard, like, he controlled Lizard and just convinced himself that he has no control, like he pushed all of the sides of his darker persona to that personality.
Very Jekyll and Hyde. Jekyll and Hyde.
Definitely. One Piece Thunder 23. Hey Masako, I just wanted to say that I just really listened to your cover of Digimon Frontier and I loved it before. But your voice is so beautiful and fits perfectly with that song that it literally makes me cry. Thank you. Aw, thanks One Piece.
Aww.
I like to do my best and I'm always trying to improve in that regard. So, thank you. Isaiah Fraser, what if New Broly was raised by Old Paragus? Or if Old Broly was raised by New Paragus? How would their stories have turned out? Well, let's focus on the New Broly Old Paragus. Well, Old Paragus was less bitter, that's for sure. And he was just...
The only real difference I could see here is apart from some superficial aspects like his vengeance being more cold or anything like that, Paragus didn't change too much between the movies. The real change was with Broly and their situation. Being stuck on planet Vampa was much bigger deal than going from place to place out in outer space.
Yeah, no.
So more than anything else, I think the difference would come from the Broly themselves, in the sense that, Old Paragus would utilize that special crown and control band to control Broly instead of a shock collar. But I think in the long run, Broly, without having experienced quite as much actual painful physical trauma from his father, I think that would actually make it easier to convince him, like, hey, I know that you're kind-hearted on the inside, and so maybe Goku would have an easier time reaching him in that sense.
Okay.
Whereas if Old Broly was with New Paragus, I think would have probably wound up happening is new Paragus would attempt to control him with the shock collar, but like the Pavlov effect wouldn't really take hold in old Broly's mind, and what would wind up happening is he'd have a berserker rage that was so bad so early on that he would have probably killed Paragus long before they got any kind of rescue. And so when people like Chilai and Lemo show up, Broly would either like manipulate his way onto the ship because he's a lot more intelligent and cunning than people give him credit for, especially in the old movie. He would either manipulate his way onto the ship, get back to Frieza's place, and then probably like assert his dominance essentially as legendary Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
Or he would have just like not even bothered and just continued living on Vappa and just doing his own thing.
Yeah, probably would have just ended up doing his own thing. Seems very fair. Isaiah Orsos, how would it look like if Raditz was brought back in Super and became a recurring character, good or otherwise? If he was just that powerful, I think he would have ended up just trying to like live his own life and not get in the way and all that kind of stuff. Pretty much he would have just not wanted to interfere, and he would have realized that it would have been it's a much safer bet to just not get in the way, pretty much.
You know what would make it more interesting, in my opinion? Like, Goten might be curious about him.
Goldo?
Goten. Not
Goten. Oh, right,
Goten,
okay.
Yeah. And Goten trying to find and bond with him, and he's like, listen, kid, I kidnapped your brother when he was a baby. I'm not good news. But that could be an interesting relation. Like, Goten can give Goten something to do.
Yeah, you almost get that sort of parallel between Gohan and Piccolo, but with Goten and Raditz. It would kind of give both of the characters something interesting to do with themselves, especially if Raditz gets wished back, and he's still got a power level between 12 and 1500, so he's super weak by comparison to everyone else. It's like Goten would be excited because he's like, hey, I've got a family member that like I can teach to go Super Saiyan, and like I can bond with this person and bring out the good in them.
Okay, that seems kind of neat. Kenshin491, what if Bulma and Goku discovered the Jedi Order?
Well, they would have to have traveled both back in time, a long time ago, and to a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
But if they did, I don't know, because like Jedi powers are a very... It's kind of similar to the My Hero Academia situation that we talked about earlier, was that when you're making these crossovers that have there's a distinct disparity between the levels of power there, you kind of have to question what's going on. And I don't think that neither Goku nor Bulma would have that kind of potential to become like Jedi per se, especially since they're from like a universe or even a galaxy that has no knowledge of like the Force. But I think that they would still be like pretty powerful by comparison. So you'd have a situation where like if there was a situation with like Vader, Palpatine, that sort of stuff in like...
relatively speaking, that seems fair.
Yeah, they could beat them easily.
Heartless Fang. What if Dark Knight's Metal asks, instead of Universe 7 being invaded by evil Batmen, it's obscene by evil multiversal versions of Goku that beat Roshi, etc. So basically, I think they're talking about like the assassins.
No, there was that situation of Batman Who Laughs when there is that event when there are evil Batmans invading the universe. It's kind of interesting. So basically, Universe 7 attacked by a group of supervillain Gokus from
alternate timelines
when something went wrong and made Goku evil. First off, and I want to get it out of the picture, like, as much as I like you mentioning, Goku beat Roshi, Goku isn't evil in that one. He's a jerk, but he's not evil.
Yeah, again, that's the kind of thing. But I think it could definitely work, but again, we're running low on time. But again, it's something quite plausible. We'll make a note of it. Rome53. Hey guys, my idea is, what if Krillin kills Vegeta at the end of their fight, ignoring Goku telling him not to do it? How would that change him and the story? Well, if basically Krillin grew a pair and decided to kill Vegeta right there and then, it would have made their situation on Namek a bit harder, And also, it probably would have actually sent a ripple in the friendship that Goku and Krillin had. Because basically, Goku wouldn't have had his way. And he probably would have resented Krillin for that. Because basically, he didn't do what he asked. And, you know, it would have caused a major rift in their friendship. And also, I think ultimately it would have ended really badly on Namek. Pretty much. I think that's all there is to it, really. That's just the simple fact. It would change the story immensely, and the friendship that Goku and Krillin had would have been pretty much irreparably damaged. But yeah. Retro Gamer.
Yeah.
What if Toa sent all of your what-if characters into the main timeline around the time Raditz shows up? Well, it would have certainly
So
made
a
things
sort
a
of
bit more interesting.
Zeno Force situation?
Yeah, pretty much. I think you'd have had a major sense of calamity, and you probably would have to use certain different characters at certain different times. Like, but you would have to do it a bit more comedically, and it probably would have just become the plot for Xenoverse 3.
It would. I'll tell you right now, it would have been more interesting than the kind of stuff that they already do with the actual Xenoverse series, because when you get right down to it, like, there's so much you can do with the concept of alternate timelines, and they always go for like the least interesting aspect. Like, oh look, Toa and Mira went back in time to give extra power to this person, but then your time controller goes in and defeats them, so it doesn't matter at all, and you don't get to see any of like the after effects of that sort of situation, really.
Yeah, unfortunately, but that seems very fair. Daniel Luong, what if Vegeta turned good before the Frieza saga? So he kind of sort of begun to do so in the background when he decided to basically go like, yeah, I'm just going to abandon Frieza now and do my own thing. So it kind of, the seeds of that were sown when he basically fled Earth. That was
that one genocide in the Namek village, you know, no biggie.
Okay, so
if you wanted to say like, okay, so you'd have to consider that the Namek saga starts from people's arrival on Namek, and that kind of includes Vegeta in that regard, right? So like, if you were to say, what if Vegeta turned good before the Namek saga? Well, first off, that means that there's really no reason for him to go to Namek, because he would have probably have seen that his ambition was without meaning. He would have probably tried to like go back to Earth and be like, hey, I wanted to speak with Kakarot, I'm not here to cause problems or whatever. And it would have probably resulted in them kind of like maybe teaming up for the journey to Namek afterwards. And if you wanted to go even further than that and say like, well, what if Vegeta's change of heart came during the Saiyan saga? Like, what if Vegeta's change of heart occurred, like, let's say, when Nappa gets crippled by Goku, and like Nappa's holding up his hand asking for help from Vegeta, and Vegeta's like, you know what, this entire situation has been like way more trouble than I expected coming here to this planet, and I really don't want to take any more risks. Maybe it's better if I rethink my life, you know. Yeah. And maybe he does help Nappa, and they kind of rethink their ways. That's about the only way I could see it happen.
And they don't take death sticks anymore.
No. Anyway, Champion of Unity. What if Demon King Piccolo survived after giving birth to Piccolo Jr.? Well,
not for long.
Not for long. Basically, he wouldn't live much longer. But if he did, and again, I'll keep this short. Basically, he probably would have ended up trying to reunite with Piccolo Jr. and make sure he stuck true to his beliefs. But then again, I feel like at the same point, he would end up hesitating Piccolo Jr. And King Piccolo may have disowned him. And it may have meant that Piccolo Jr. would have actually had to ultimately grow up and become more of a good guy. Basically, not agreeing to his father, becoming an enemy of the father, and then having to team up with Goku. So I feel like... he would have had his kind of heel face turn like earlier on, because one of the big issues with like Piccolo's mindset is early on he kind of conflates his own identity with his father, and that's part of that sort of dichotomy of like, am I my own person or am I my father's reincarnation? You know, like, what am I? If King Piccolo were still alive when Piccolo Jr. is born, that would give him like a separate identity to project his like troubles upon. Like he would know he isn't
King Piccolo. He is just Piccolo's son, which gives him more of an opportunity to make his own path.
Okay, that seems to make more sense, and I think that it's interesting, but I think that could be like a nice little kind of like lightning round thing. But yeah, Paparacha has two things. What if only future Trunks was a girl, and what if only present Trunks was a girl? I don't think it would really make a difference.
Well, I think I've answered what if future Trunks was a girl in a previous one before, which was more or less that she would be pretty much the same exact character. The only difference is maybe she, maybe knowing her tastes and the way that she grew up, she might have had more of something of a precocious crush on Gohan, which when he died would have caused a little bit of extra little layers to her trauma, and would have probably resulted in some more attempts to kind of bond with the younger Gohan, just to kind of try and grasp at that fleeting memory of that feeling.
Yeah.
To compensate. Apart from that, I don't think much else would have happened. If present Trunks were female, I also don't think a whole lot of difference would have happened, because in all honesty, like Trunks. Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe Goten would have a crush on female Trunks.
Maybe.
Yeah,
but
maybe like a childhood thing. Yeah. All right, I think that's pretty much it, really. But
yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, they're the same character essentially, even if you give them a different gender.
Yeah, exactly. Kenshin 491. What if Buu didn't exist and a sealed Babidi, Buu level of power, mind control people to free himself? Also,
it's like Moro.
Thank you. Yeah, it's basically Moro. Go and watch. Go and read the Moro arc, and you pretty much got that.
Yeah.
Kenshin. That's pretty much the long and short of it. Season 2 2000. What if the anime and manga universes combined together? Oh, what? Actually, Toriyama and Toyotaro actually listen to each other. Like,
and Toei.
Yeah, if
and Toei, because this is the
third same notes.
Triple T, as we call them.
Yeah, if the Triple T basically had the same notes, I think that would have happened. Actually, it would have made things coherent instead of making the anime manga divide even bigger than it was before. Pretty much.
Yeah.
We could go on and on about this.
Although,
but
that's one of those things that it's a huge slippery slope conversation, because like we can't even possibly begin to talk about the sheer depth of like what is and is not like canon in Toriyama's, and to talk about what would and wouldn't be blended in with each other, because there are some stark differences between the manga and the anime at times.
Yeah.
You kind of have to just take it as it is and just sort of hope that in the future maybe the adaptations will be more along the line of each other, since the anime is now behind the manga.
If you want a good example, watch our Zeno video. Really.
Yeah, pretty much watch our Zeno video, definitely, I would say. John Riggins. Hi all, and congratulations on your nuptials, Masako. My question... Well, thank you very much, John. My question is, if you all displaced into the Dragon Ball world, who would you most like to meet, and what kind of adventure would you like to go on? Let's keep this short because we're running out of bit of time.
Okay. Do either of you want to start?
I basically just say I'd like to. I probably would hang out with. Probably just hang out with adult Gohan. He just seems nice, and I think he would just be. He just reminds me of our James, our Gohan, because he would just be such a cinnamon bun. He'd be so nice and charming, and he'd be just I think it'd be just like adult Gohan for me.
I think I would want to. I think that I wouldn't want to like slip into that world as an adult, because so much of my life, like my prime and part of my life for that sort of basically shonen universe is now behind me because I'm 30. So like if I was going to go into that universe, I would want to be a kid, and I'd want to be training alongside like Goku and Krillin or something.
Okay.
Maybe even training alongside characters like Gohan or even Goten and Trunks if I had to.
I would like, and for me, I would like the characters to summon Shenron. For me, not getting a wish, just summon Shenron. I would really love to see Shenron live.
I also have a couple of wishes that I would probably ask of Shenron that I'm not gonna go into.
But Paparacha wraps this all up. What if Vegeta was stranded after the Saiyan saga? Well, basically, you just have like, You would just have the whole thing that you would have with after the Namek saga just happen earlier. Like, Vegeta would have had no choice but to basically do what Bulma says and, you know, kind of just get a bit cushy about the whole thing. It would just happen a bit earlier. More resistance, granted, but I think ultimately the same outcome would have happened. The same end would have occurred, just by slightly different means. You think that, guys, that's viable?
Yeah, I think that's probably about it.
Yeah,
about
that's
right.
pretty much it. But all right, we are
Now,
done.
was that the last one?
was the
Because I did
last
want to
one.
make I did want to say one last thing, is that I've seen that the chat has been pretty active today, and I've seen a few people getting a little bit upset, a little bit bitter. But you guys got to really remember that we have a very strict time limit. Masako and Haverok live in a completely different time zone than most of the viewers who watch, and they really have to go to bed. So we have to try to keep this to a specifically set time limit. So we read the super chats specifically just to try and keep things organized. If you want a guarantee that we will see your question and read your question and stuff like that, then the only way we can recommend is to give a super chat. You don't even have to give very much.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
give a super chat and it'll guarantee it for you.
Also, I always, after
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Oh,
looks like
hello.
Masako disconnected a bit.
Yeah,
there he
yeah.
is.
Dak troubles.
Yeah. So to quickly sum it up. Sorry. So we read everything you guys write. We don't need to refer to that, but we read your comments. We read the stuff on chat. We are aware. So don't worry, guys. You are seen. You might not be commented, but you are being seen.
And you are being seen, and if you really want us to talk about your stuff, like I said, the only guarantee we can offer is the super chat, because we get so much of this stuff that there's really not very much way to talk about it all in a 2-hour time limit and get to the people who aren't paying.
Yeah, exactly. Because
that's just the reality of it.
That is the reality, because basically it's just the way that YouTube provides a list of all of them that happen. So that means we have an actual list of exactly what you said. That's why. And it does help support the channel, but again, you don't have to give very much. It just means that your thing will be listed and it will be gotten to in the fullness of time. You just gotta
guaranteed.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think that's pretty much a good way to kind of just like end things. And thank you so much, Haverok. Thank you so much, Sophie, and thank you everyone for listening. And we shall be back next week, and tomorrow we will have What If Cell Turned Good Part 10.
Yeah.
So look forward to that tomorrow. So until then, everybody, have a good rest of your night and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.